ever find yourself staring out the window instead of doing your classwork? Maybe you were dreaming about what you wanted to do when you became an adult, like inventing a way to study the brain through 3D imaging? Maybe what it would be like to travel to a distant planet? The possibilities are endless when you understand how your brilliant brain thinks and learns. Let's listen in. Welcome to Brilliance of Dyslexia Masterclass series, empowering parents with the tools to help their kids explore their creative brilliance, embrace their unique way of thinking, and envision what's possible for them, so that learning becomes easy, exciting, and purposeful. So the bottom line, kids want to feel they are valued. So let's make a deal and commit to taking one action after you watch this interview. Hi, I'm Jean, your host. I'm the founder of the Brilliance of Dyslexia Masterclass series, and I'm really excited to introduce to you our speaker for this masterclass, Darren Clark, who is a dyslexic influencer and award-winning entrepreneur, and who is changing perceptions for neurodiversity globally through speaking, training, and consulting. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this today. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and thank you for speaking with us. So let's start off by telling us about your story, like your journey, and how you came to be doing what you do now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD at the age of 36, so 44 now. So I'm still trying to discover my own kind of journey with dyslexia and ADHD. So prior to that, I guess it takes me back to kind of undiagnosed dyslexia, and this was formulated. Obviously, school was very tricky for me, and when I say tricky, it was very difficult. The school that I went to was very, let's say, it wasn't adequately set up to assist people with dyslexia. We're talking kind of 80s, 90s, child in the school. So subsequently, I was kind of isolated away from a lot of my peers into separate classroom. Most of my kind of 5 years, which was secondary school in the UK. I think it's high school in the US. So those moments of isolation and separation were, they formulated kind of a lot of kind of dampening with my confidence and a lot of anxiety. And within school, we just kind of, especially in high school or secondary school, we just want to fit in and just kind of go under the radar. At least I did, and not be separated. So subsequently, school was very difficult. I was given kind of just tasks as in colouring books, dot books, all these things, just kind of just see me through the day. I had lots of substitute teachers, and what generally happened was when I left school, I wasn't adequately set up to sit any exams. I subsequently wasn't put in for any exams, so left school without any qualifications whatsoever on paper. And now this, I obviously, there was a lot of things that went on with the school, and kind of the unknown diagnosis of the dyslexia and around, not kind of the support elements of it. So this kind of set me up, or didn't set me up, so to speak, for when I went into the workplace. You can imagine leaving school with no qualifications, feeling, not as confident as you should be going into the world of work. And it gave me this sense of unknown, and of one, there was excitement because I could kind of feel like I can actually, set my own path. But filling out application forms was very, very difficult, because every application form you filled out, they would obviously ask for your grades, what qualifications you had, and I had to leave this section blank every single time. My mum used to help me fill out these application forms, and I think I applied for about 18, 19 different positions. Subsequently, I got my first job in a supermarket, and I was pushing trolleys. So I was the chap that was collecting trolleys around the area of the supermarket and pushing them all back. And this was about 12 hours a week. But do you know what? That job for me was so exciting because it felt like it was a task and a job that I can actually do. And I wasn't being, as long as the trolleys were pushed back, I was doing my job. So it wasn't, there was any boundaries, I guess, that I actually felt quite confident. And I fell in love with retail, and kind of worked my way up the retail ladder. Numerous different jobs. We fast forward, I managed to kind of work really, really hard to become a senior manager for one of the largest retail outlets, looking after many stores, hundreds and hundreds of staff. obviously there's a story in between all of these of the journey, which we can share, later or a later date. I then got to a position where it was very kind of high up position, very, great pay, but I was working probably 80, 90 hours a week. And with undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD, the stress was kind of just building upon me. I was going for promotion after promotion. I was getting the jobs, I was getting the position. And I think I kind of got to a point where something felt like it was going to break. It break in the sense of me personally, the stress that I felt myself under. I would have the visual stress of dyslexia, words moving around. I would feel exhausted. I would feel tired. So, and again, I just didn't know what was wrong. I knew there was something, but just couldn't put my fingers on it. I then listened to a news broadcast, and the broadcast was about a lady who, and I didn't know at the time, and she was being interviewed about her floristry business. And what had actually happened is they were asking her all about her floristry business, and they kept using the terminology dyslexia. They kept saying, how did you know you had dyslexia? How, what are the symptoms? What does this look like? And it was one of those meant to kind of moments where you just listen to the news. I kind of put my laptop down and I kind of focused on the TV. And he said, I can't spell the bouquets of flowers that I make up, but what I can do is I can tell you by the smells, I can tell you by the colors, I can tell you all these things and the names. And what this kind of gave me, when she started talking about how she gets tired, how she sees letters moving around, how these, and we know that dyslexia is different in every individual. And it then set me on a journey really to kind of understand my own dyslexia. So once I realized how I could spell dyslexia, I Googled it, and then kind of went on a little bit of a self journey to understand dyslexia. I then went and got tested for dyslexia. This was a couple of day thing, and then I came out with dyslexia and ADHD. And since then, I've been on kind of a bit of a journey really to understand how dyslexia affects others and how I can help and support. I've created many businesses. I left the corporate world and set up my own several businesses as an entrepreneur, as the words that you use, and employed thousands of staff over the years. But now, over the past, say, 4 years, I've really kind of, as a neurodiversity consultant, worked with organizations and schools to help raise more awareness. That's in a nutshell, kind of a little bit about my journey. I hope that helps.
How did it feel having a diagnosis?
So I guess for me, it felt like it answered a lot of questions. I was very harsh on myself when I didn't get those promotions, or I would want to work longer than I could physically work longer. And all these things that I felt I was inadequate for. Once I had that diagnosis, it wasn't, like a golden ticket and everything's cured, or everything's okay. It was more in the sense of, it was kind of like, oh, I get it. I can, it answers a lot of questions. However, it started me on a journey of asking more questions of dyslexia. And I felt I had to really kind of, find out from experts like yourself and organizations and all these different things to try and understand it, because the diagnosis for me was just the start of a journey. It was kind of the, to understand this, that, okay, you're now on a journey of understanding how that works for you and how it works for other people. So it was a bit of a mixed feelings, really.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And especially if you're thinking like, I'm working so hard and I can't seem to get ahead, or I just don't know. And you start, how does that feel on you? I mean, what are your thoughts around yourself, of
Absolutely.
who you are?
I guess where I felt like I had a lot of inadequacies within the educational side of it. And I'm a massive advocate of the educational system. And, I work tirelessly with the educational system and spoken to over 80,000 students around neurodiversity, dyslexia, and entrepreneurship. But I guess it's digging deep that self-worth of understanding to not be so harsh on yourself. And I'm not too sure if it's my ADHD, my dyslexia, or just the way that I'm kind of built, so to speak, or that I'm very, very driven. And with that drive comes expectations. And I think the biggest person that puts the expectations on is myself. So I almost become a perfectionist without realizing it. So I guess it's just understanding how I work. I mean, I use so with the visual stress of dyslexia, and when things start moving around, it takes me 45 minutes to write an email, as opposed to normally it would take me 10 minutes. What I've learned to start doing now is shutting the computer down, or putting the phone down and going for a walk, or just really kind of understanding in that moment, no matter how much I push, it's not going to benefit me or the person that's going to be receiving the email, where they have to decipher through it. So I guess it's just learning strategies. It doesn't always work. I always feel I should be doing more, but genuinely, I think I think I work. I'm pretty hard on myself, and that's
Yeah.
something that I'm working hard to deal with.
Yeah, I totally agree with, and I've been doing this a lot lately, a lot more lately, is just getting up out of away from the computer and getting my brain elsewhere and my body doing something different, and I can think clearer. And things come to me, and I'm like, oh, I have to write that down real quick so I can remember it when I get back to my computer. But taking those breaks. So if we were to translate that into our kids, into education, especially our kids who are neurodiverse, they may not know this or not, but they're pushing and struggling. And why is reading so hard? Why am I not making the same grades as somebody else? Like, you know, how does that, what is your advice on that?
Yeah, so it really stems from starting that conversation with your peers, with your teachers, with your parents, and it can be very difficult. And I guess it's just having that open and honest conversation. And we take the school system. I'm very fortunate that I've been in the corporate environment where I can I'm working 80, 90 hours, and I have to have a set time of getting everything delivered. And I'm in a position now where I can kind of work when I'm at my best and rest when I can't, deliver what I need to deliver. And I think this is really difficult in the educational system, because if we take a tailored day, say 9 till 3 in the UK, a student has to turn up for registration and then start the lesson, say 10 past 9 in the morning, and then whatever the lesson is, so whether it's maths or drama or art or PE, they have to perform within that. Within that lesson. So if it's a creative lesson, the worst thing you could do for a creative is sit someone down at a certain time and say, right, be creative. Creativity comes from so many other things, so from being in nature or listening to music or coloring in or drawing. So I think it's just it is very difficult as a child, because you do have those boundaries. And even when you're, I used to stand up a lot, and I still do. When I'm working, I stand up, I pace, I walk. But if you did that in an environment like a classroom, that I can see how this would be, Darren, you need to sit down. Darren, you need to, conform in these ways. So I guess it's having those open conversations and saying, okay, so what do I struggle with? If I was given a task, how would I attack that task in the nicest possible way? What tools would I need to have those? And that conversation then develops. And I guess it's just having an understanding around, the school system within this. And it can be very difficult. If you've got 25 other children, you can, I guess, from a teacher's point of view, you can't just have someone standing up and walking around the classroom. But there could be breakout sessions. There could be making the lessons more interactive rather than just writing, and sitting there for the whole hour. I would find that really, I sit in meetings before, and if they're going on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm just sat in one place, you're not getting the best out of me to be creative. So I think there's lots of different ways we can kind of help, but I think it does stem from having those open conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And for the kids to know how their brain works and what works best for them. It is difficult for them to just, the bell rings, you sit down and you perform. And you have to sit still or just work on whatever and all of a sudden just perform. And that really makes it difficult. So I guess, like you say, have that conversation with the parents, have that conversation with the teacher, since you as a parent know your child best, and how you can work some things out, some breaks in there for the child. I know some teachers would figure out some sort of message or agreement with the secretary at the front office that she was going to send little Johnny at such and such a time each day with a note, and to her, just because it would get Johnny up out of the, out and walking and out
Yeah,
of the room and just doing something to make him feel good, and also just to get that exercise. And when little Johnny would come back, it would be like a little break for him. And it was totally honoring for little Johnny to, hey, take this note down to Miss Smith in the front office, and the teacher and Miss Smith have an agreement that this is what's
what a
going to
great idea.
happen. So Miss Smith can just do all the praising, do all the whatever, and when he comes back, it's like, whoo. So I mean, there's little things like that that a teacher
Absolutely.
can.
What a marvelous, simple yet marvelous idea. And like I said, the praise element of this, I think, you've got to think about if a child is already going into a lesson and they're unsure if they have dyslexia or ADHD or some form of neurodiversity, and they're already going into a lesson feeling nervous because they, within the lesson, sometimes you have to perform. You have to perform in some aspects, whether it's written, verbal, whatever the lesson is going to undertake. So that nervous element is from the off, and then you sit there and then you have to be kind of not confined to the chair. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but you have to kind of sit there and then you have to do this. I can imagine it can be a real tense moment for the student. And like I said, you're not really getting the best out of the student, within this. Sometimes they might be fine. Sometimes it might, they might have days where, some meetings I can sit in longer. Some meetings I have to kind of, break up. I tend to do a lot of kind of 20-minute segments of real kind of intense work for 20 minutes. And then I break, whether it's to go, for a walk, whether it's to get a drink, whether it's, that element for me, I found really does work for my work pattern.
It does, because you have 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes you get to take a break. It's very
Yeah.
motivating, that
Yeah.
you can just jump in because you're going to get a break. So that would be the same thing for kids as well, and also moms and whatever.
But
Yeah. So what do we need to do or how does this sitting down and performing, and maybe not always being at your best, how does this affect the mental health of our kids who are neurodiverse?
absolutely. I'm a big believer in, with the mental health element. From going through things, myself, I understand that environment. We got to kind of think about the environment that we're putting our children in, and it's a safe environment, school. I'm not saying it's not, but it's the environment of that thought pattern that a child's going through the night before, thinking of going to that lesson. Are they going to be able to perform? I mean, if it's a class and it's a spelling test, or they're asking people, I mean, one of the biggest fears for me was being called up. Even now, if I was in a meeting and someone asked me to walk to the front of the meeting with the flip chart and start writing out things, even if it's the people's names that are in the room. And I do a lot of training with the consultancy, but I work around this and use people around me. But it's those putting them in that environment where they're going to feel very vulnerable. If you stand a child in front of a class with 25 students and ask them to write something on the board or try and dictate something, or this can have a real detrimental effect on the mental health, because the confidence element of this individual. So we need to, I guess it's just kind of, it is that kind of working pattern with the student, and finding those moments where that child does actually start to feel like they go in on themselves and they start thinking, I don't feel comfortable in this environment, in the sense of the inability to do the other things that everyone else is doing so seamlessly. And that's what we do in our minds. We think, well, why does everyone else get it? Why can't I do it? Why can't I spell this? You've told me the word 13 times. Why am I not getting it? And these are the conversations I used to have in my head, walking home from school with a headache all the time. And I used to just self-talk. I used to say, well, why don't I get it? I just literally do not get it. So I think this is the mental health element that we do need to bring into the school elements to help and support individuals.
Well, and when you're talking about your brain and the way all these not feeling good enough, or not feeling safe for being who you are, because some of these comments can come at you, so that becomes hardwired into your brain, and your subconscious brain wants to keep you safe. And so then you tend to not want to read, not want to do the assignment, because that's not a safe thing for you to do. Your brain is saying, hey, that's not safe for you. So just kind of let that be. Go take a break, go sharpen your pencil, go do something else, and to avoid that, because you've had some comments or conversations that have come at you that you're not, or your own inner feelings are that you're not good enough,
Yeah,
that I'm not smart, I can't keep up, I can't read. And when you make those comments to yourself, it becomes hardwired into your
absolutely.
subconscious brain. And so your brain says, oh, here comes a book, be careful. Be careful, here comes a writing assignment, ooh, watch out. And so those barriers get put up. And they're all done subconsciously. You don't really realize that that's what's going on. And
Absolutely.
so what can with given that, what are some things that parents can do to, if they could understand that that's what's going on? It's not that their child's refusing to read or purposely avoiding, it's because their brain is telling them this is not safe.
I completely, yeah, absolutely. I think well, we look at these aspects within lessons, and we always naturally go to the things that we can't do, and we say, well, we struggle with this, we struggle with this, but there are lessons within the school that a child may really kind of flourish in. It may be arts, it may be creative, maybe
Yes.
drama, maybe PE, physical activity, it may be sports, anything. So I guess we're not taking we're not saying that every single lesson that the student would go into a classroom they would feel inadequate. I guess it's because these are such core lessons, the writing and the reading. There's such core things that we need to help with. They do take the child's focus mainly on that inadequacy of not being able to do it. I think when we look at kind of home life, I guess, and how parents can help and support, I'm a massive believer in, and I always mention all the time about having that conversation, that open conversation. And I guess we can kind of see telltale signs in how a child reacts when, like you said, you show a book to a child, or you do a reading, you're reading to the child before they go to bed, or you're just doing the reading lessons, or you see a child picking a book up. It's that general reaction of trying to understand, why do they have that kind of reaction? And normally there's a story behind it. There's an emotive feeling that a child has, where they felt that as soon as they have the book, they have to read, and then there's shame or something, that everyone makes fun of someone when they're doing these things. So I guess having those conversations and trying to understand what the triggers are with the student, and then it's a case of it. I mean, this isn't an overnight fix. As soon as a child says, I struggle reading, or someone laughed when I was in class, which would be very damaging to your confidence. I guess then it's just having those conversations and getting the child to kind of maybe read in a different way, making it more visual, making it, I always remember reading to my son with voices and actions, and making it is as colorful as possible. Yet I was still delivering the same words, which was on the page. And that's kind of that. Then as soon as I picked the book up, they knew maybe I was going to be doing the silly voice, or maybe I was going to be, animating in this. And it actually got to a point where, they grabbed the book and they would love to listen to the book or read the book. So it almost fell back in love with reading. So those elements are from a younger age, they really do help. I guess for, when we're looking at an older age kind of a student within this, I guess it's just having those conversations and putting those tools in place, and having a conversation with the teachers, and really just kind of understanding exactly what, where they're at. This is a lifelong journey, especially when we think of dyslexia. This isn't something that's just going to end when they leave school and they go to the workplace. This is something that we're going to need to work together on continuously.
Right. So, we were talking about the other day how, as dyslexics, take in information and they create images and pictures in their brain. So that lends itself really well. And there was something that you had suggested that parents could, that nighttime reading, if the parents could read the book and allow the child to just take this information in and create those images and just really enjoy the book, instead of you must read 20 minutes a night, because that seems to be the thing, read, and that's the recommendation now to get your kids wanting to read and being able to read better. But if you have a child that's a struggle for them, instead of having them sit there and struggle and not be able to do it, and then they're going to sleep feeling not good enough, or not, not being a good reader, they're sleeping on that thought. Why
Yeah.
not? And what was the suggestion that you uh, had
So,
given
so
to parents?
yeah, so it's almost creating. You wouldn't say, "Oh, let's watch a movie this evening." Okay, we'll watch one. You wouldn't. You'd pick a genre you felt like watching, or you would really kind of put a lot of kind of work into wanting to connect with something. And I think with regards to the book, if you can make it, the child can actually read, yes, it may be 20 minutes, and you could read some, maybe they could pick out some words, maybe they can point to things, and you can kind of make it a little bit more interactive like this, and you could get the 20 minutes, and you'd actually get more from the child doing that, and getting that interactive, than really trying to say, right, okay, we've got 20 minutes, you need, because we tell the children that, oh, you've got to do 20 minutes worth of reading. So straight away a child thinks that's 20 minutes, which in child's world is like a lifetime. That's like 10 hours, 20 minutes, and then it's every single word, maybe a struggle. I know it was with me. So once you've done the first couple of lines, that's only what, a minute gone, and the child in the head thinking, oh my goodness, I've got a whole 8 hours of this to do. So I always remember one of the most fond memories of, because I never read books as a child, struggled with reading. And but I always remember my story of my mum sitting at the end of my bed every single night reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and she would read every single chapter. She'd read a chapter an evening, and then I'd go to bed and I'd be dreaming about lions and witches and maybe wardrobes, and I would just this fantasy. This was before the films came out, and I would just have this picture of this fantasy land, and it was amazing. And then every night I'd say to my mum, could you read another chapter? And she'd read another chapter. And then when that book finished, because I had such a fondness for the book, because I created all these images, my mum would actually say, well, we're going to read a new book. We've got this new book. Well, I didn't want to read the new book. So when my mum would read, couldn't wait for that ending of that new book to finish. And then I said, can you read Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe again? And it was just that connection to books. So she must have read it to me about 45 times. Or it was just, but as a child, I can remember, when I think about the love of books, I don't think about how difficult it was in school trying to read them. I remember some of the magic that was formulated around a book, and I think my mum was doing that without her knowing the effect that it had on me, even to this day.
Yeah, I think just having the kids exposed to language, how it's written, and without them having to trudge through it, because sound by sound by sound, or syllable by syllable, just doesn't make this story flow. But when
Yes.
you can feel the flow of the language, and feel the flow and the imagery that's coming out of that, the richness out of that, that I think just gives that much. I'm just thinking about their mental health. Going to sleep in such a great frame of mind, like you dreamed about the lion, the witch, and maybe a wardrobe, whatever that meant to you.
Okay, no, I just
um,
seen the
yeah,
title.
yeah, and I think that really is super important. And I firmly believe that when you are giving that to your child at an early age, young, whatever age, it doesn't really matter. As long as, if they want you to read to them, then let them read, even if it's third or fourth grade, and let them take that information in and assimilate it. They will eventually, say, okay, I'm going to give this a try, and help me out a little bit. Um, and I was even, thinking, like, above fourth grade. I mean, you're getting into, even more third grade now. You're getting into nonfiction, when it, like geography and social studies and those types of things. And that text is so, rich, and it's difficult, because you have a lot of sentences that have all the words that do not image, like the, if so, if so, then, and you're like, how do you image that, right? And it's a little bit more difficult. I think it's even more important to use, either the parent can read, but that can get to be quite cumbersome, but to use technology.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, what are your thoughts around technology?
Yeah, I'm again. I work with a few different assistive technology organizations purely to kind of help bring them into the educational sector. And I'm a massive believer. And this is the beauty. What I love about assistive technology is there is such a variety of different ones that kind of work, because we can. It's not just one assistive technology fits all. And this is what I love, because we all learn differently. We are all different. So I love the fact that we can try out assistive technology. It could be the web browser, in the sense that it could read the emails, we could talk pens, we could talk, there's a whole different host of varieties. And I think just having, what I love about schools, within the UK as well, that they are trialing these things to help, students, almost, I guess, what I love is that they can use these and they're not kind of noticeable, in the sense. So a lot of things are quite discreet now. Some of the assistive technology that they can put headphones in, they can kind of work with these things. But it does really come down to the student kind of allowing themselves to kind of take the time to kind of learn these. I guess I've used assistive technology. I'm someone who kind of doesn't rebel against it in any way, shape, or form, but sometimes I can just crack on with a task and start working with it, and then think to myself, oh, I know it would be easier if I use the assistive technology to do this. So I think if we can incorporate it into the schools, at an early age, as literally just if you were looking to work out a sum, you would probably use a calculator, and it's kind of that mindset of something as simple as this. That can really help, and it gives that kind of that confidence back to the student, because the child, sorry, because then they can say, well, actually, I don't need someone to sit next to me and read this. I can, I'm at a level playing field, I guess, to be able to use this technology to use. So yeah, I'm always keen to see what else they're bringing out to help people around neurodiversity, and I find it, it's not the solution to everything, but I do firmly believe that it can be, as it is, an assistive part to the learning.
Yeah, because even if you're using assistive technology to get the information, you still have to deal with the information. Like, how are you, like, not what, like, schools right now teach us what to learn, but not how to learn. It's the
Yes.
how to learn that's really important. And if you can get the language and the words into the brain, thinking about it. Now, what am I going to do about it? What am I supposed to do with this? How do I write this into a report? Or how do I put this into a multimedia type of project that really takes that's my passion to build, dioramas or whatever, as opposed to just writing out a paper.
Absolutely, and I think that element, as you elegantly put, it does give the confidence back to to the child that's actually using this, because they don't feel, oh, I'm cheating by having this, or I'm inadequate from having this. It's just a tool to kind of help you, like you said, read that question, or get this. The skill within yourself is, like I said, it's getting that the next step done it. So it does still allow you to have that confidence, and still put in the hard work after you've had the assistive technology helping you out slightly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you still are doing the project. You're doing like, what's the end goal? What's the end goal? What's the end goal of education?
Yeah, so it purely is to help. It's for knowledge, isn't it? For
Mhm.
to give the child the knowledge and the confidence to be able to go out into the world, and and flourish. That's I just think there are a few different things within the educational, especially within the UK, that could be a little bit more set up to help neurodivergent and children, just
Yeah.
to help and support.
I love your story that you told about a presentation that you gave and that everyone was doing PowerPoints, but what did you do?
Yeah, so I was going for a very high promotion. I was in quite a senior role at the time, and I was going for a more senior role. And I was told that I had to get this position, I had to go and do a 40-minute presentation to these really kind of high up people who work for this company. And there was 10 of us, and we were all invited to travel up to this place to do this presentation. And we had the remit before. We were told that you had to, because I was a store manager at the time looking after a store, you had to give all the information of how your store is performing, how the staff are, what your turnover is, and all these different statistics that they wanted to do. And again, what you were doing in the community and so on. And as soon as I was given this information, straight away I was thinking, and they actually put, you need to present this in a PowerPoint presentation. And as soon as I had this this thing presented to me, and this was with undiagnosed dyslexia, so I didn't even know I had dyslexia, ADHD at the time. I was given, I went away and I Googled PowerPoint presentations. I watched YouTube videos on this, and they were amazing. PowerPoint presentations, all singing and dancing, looked amazing. And I thought to myself then, I was just about to try and learn how to put this PowerPoint presentation together with the information I had. And I had like 4 days to do this and then travel up there. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to deliver what I needed to deliver from me as a PowerPoint presentation and learn the PowerPoint presentation within that time frame. I thought that would just be, too much with everything else that's going on. So I got a flip chart and where I drew pictures. I drew the supermarket. I drew a university hat. I drew smiley faces. I drew a lorry which would bring the stock out, and I think I had about 10 sheets of a flip chart, all these just literally just pictures. And I turned up to this this place with the other 9 candidates, all looking for this one position. And I remember going in, it was very professional, very, well-to-do. And we sat at the very end of one table, and then the people who were going to be interviewing us was at the other end. And it was just, you had to do this kind of long walk all the way down and then stand in front of them. And then they would kind of look up and say, right, let me know when you can present. Now we had to present, we didn't know this at the time, we had to present in front of everyone else. So the people that were sitting here had to sit through 10, 45 minutes or 40-minute presentations. And we all picked a number, and I got lucky number 10, which meant that everyone had to kind of see everyone's presentation. So when I got up, you can imagine the people that were interviewing weren't actually, they just wanted to go home. They just probably had enough. And they kind of just sort of looked up like this and just said, yeah, do the presentation. And everyone else had a PowerPoint. And I got this flip chart out and I put it at the end of the table right by them. And the lady there, she kind of, and the gentleman, they looked at me and they were kind of just shocked. They were thinking, are you okay? Have you got your PowerPoint? I said, I haven't done a PowerPoint presentation, but I've done this. And when I did the first, it was I think it was a smiley face or welcome to Darren's presentation or something like this. And this was for a very high position paid job. And everyone at the very end of the table started sort of, laughing, sort of secretly laughing, because they thought, I was taking the mic, and I flipped the chart, and I think at one point at the start they were going to call the meeting off. They literally just went, look, if you're not going to take this seriously, then we're not going to interview you. It was very much, and I said, no, please stick with this. I flipped the chart back. They saw the pictures. About third slide in, they started getting it, and they were really intrigued. But this is the thing. Every picture that was up there, when I saw a delivery truck, I could tell them about delivery turnaround, how much stock they have, what the stock loss was, what we were doing to improve sales. When there was a university hat, I was talking about growth and supporting our colleagues and what the educational program we were doing. So because I see everything in pictures, I saw those pictures and immediately had the information that I was able to deliver. So as I was going through, I was doing all the presentation without all the kind of, death by PowerPoint, so to speak, reading all the notes off. And I got to the end of the presentation and, they said, thank you so much. And after the presentation, the gentleman came up to me and the lady, and they said, well done for having the guts and the nerve to do something so different. And I openly explained to them, I said, look, in order for me to do the PowerPoint presentation within the time that was allowed, I wouldn't have been able to deliver what I need to deliver. I don't know how to do PowerPoint presentations, but this is what I thought would be best. And I did. I genuinely thought, well, this would be ideal. Subsequently, I got the position over the other 9 candidates. I'm sure the other 9 candidates are very successful, and I wish them very, very well. Was it to the presentation? I'm not too sure. Was it what I delivered? I'm not too sure. But my heart was going 10 to the dozen when I was put the PowerPoint, the flip chart down, and their faces immediately was but
Yeah,
I've always
you caught them by surprise, and you used your ingenuity. You know, you didn't do just like everybody else. It wasn't this boring
yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yeah, it was 9 presentations, and they were very good and very colorful, and looked amazing. But again, they were all very similar. Just, it was the same kind of things, just different colors and different, blocks and charts and graphs. But I guess this really kind of, and this is where I love around my own dyslexia and neurodiversity people that I kind of meet, it is literally that out of box thinking. It is that kind of just something a little bit different, a little bit quirky, just not kind of the same. And you just take notice of it. And you almost, did that actually really happen? Did someone come to a presentation and for a position, for a high paid job, and showed us
Who
pictures?
would dare?
To my knowledge, it's not been done before. It's always done PowerPoint presentations, but it definitely made the talk of the supermarket I worked in.
I love that you use the word quirky. I do
I
because
class myself as
I
that.
think it's great. That's great. So, if we were to leave our listeners with one single action today, what would it be?
I think it's that self belief within yourself, and to really kind of just not be so harsh on yourself, and admit just really kind of understand that you are an absolute gift, and to the world. Honestly, the talents that you have, and not everyone really feels like, everyone looks around and think, oh, that's their talent. What's my talent? Trust me, you have a talent, and a real gift to the world. So I think it's that self-belief and that confidence, which you should believe in.
Do it the way you want to do it. What are what's your strength? And just really taking a
Absolutely.
look at that. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that thought pattern when you think, well, shall I try something a little bit different? I'm not too sure how to do this. Maybe this. It's that. Those are those moments in your life that will make those differences.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
do a little bit, as we say, a little bit quirky.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. So, Darren, you have a free gift for us. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, no, so absolutely. So I've been very fortunate to travel different parts of the world, listening to people's stories around neurodiversity. And we recently set up a neurodiversity stories, which we talk to a lot of people around neurodiversity every single week. Because I'm a massive believer that every single person has a story. So what I want to do is I'm happy to give you a coaching session around telling your story and how you can get that out to the world. So it would be a one-to-one coaching session with me. I would love to hear your story, and help you be able to broadcast your story out to the world.
Wow, that's really nice. That's really, really good. That's really generous. Now, I was looking on your website, I guess it was last week or something, and I saw that you had a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's about neurodiversity stories.
Yes. So it's called Neurodiversity Stories. We're on episode, I think, 24 now, and like I said, we air it every single Friday. So I invite guests around neurodiversity onto it. We air this out on every single Friday at 11 o'clock UK time. It goes out live on Facebook and LinkedIn, LinkedIn Live, and it's very fun, very friendly. And then what we also do is we then put it as a podcast and put that out as well. So it's a live and a podcast, but I'm also working tirelessly to create more podcasts and hear more stories from people.
I think that's great. That's fantastic. Yes, I like that. I like that. So, how can the listeners find you?
Yeah, so if you are onto LinkedIn, it's Darren Clark on LinkedIn. And also, if you put in Darren Clark dyslexia, I'm sure you'll be able to find me. And also through my global neurodiversity consultant website as well, and neurodiversity stories as well. So there's a couple of things you'll be able to find me on. And like I said, I'd love to have a conversation, and if I can help in any way, then please do share.
Great. Yeah, we'll have all those links down below this video. So, thank you so much for speaking to us today about your experiences as a child, your advice, your insights, and being a successful entrepreneur.
Bless you.
I love it. So, do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say, things that you're putting on for this is just so incredible, and it allows people to delve in and start the conversations, and hopefully, if people listening to to what you're doing will be able to kind of flourish and start more conversations and create more awareness. So I'm very humbled by this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great. So I'm really honored to have had this conversation with you, Darren. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this interview will be available to you for the next 24 hours, and grab your friends so that, who need to hear the stories that we've been talking about building our kids' self-esteem and discovering their gifts that they have. It's been wonderful spending this time with you, and be sure to come back to watch more of the interviews from our expert speakers. So this is Jean Harville from the Brilliance of Dyslexia Masterclass series. Bye-bye for now.